where legends breathe again. Eldmyth. Before Thor's hammer ever shook the heavens, there was Sif, the golden-haired goddess whose beauty could spark wars, and whose loss nearly broke the gods themselves. But behind the shining legend lies a story of power, identity, and a trickster's unforgivable mistake. The world of Norse myth is one of thunder and ice, of mighty deeds and cosmic struggle. It is a realm where gods walk tall, their names echoing through the sagas. Odin the All-Father, cunning Loki, and Thor, the thunderer, protector of mankind. Yet beside these colossal figures, often standing just outside the direct blaze of their fame, are beings of profound and subtle power. One such figure is Sif, the golden-haired wife of Thor. She is a goddess woven into the very fabric of the world, her story not of explosive might, but of quiet dignity, profound connection, and a beauty that is far more than skin deep. To know Sif is to look beyond the lightning strike and see the fertile field it nourishes, to listen past the crash of thunder and hear the gentle rustle of ripe wheat. She is the embodiment of the earth's bounty, a divine promise of growth and renewal in a universe constantly threatened by frost and chaos. Her tale begins not with a roar, but with a whisper from the soil itself, a whisper of life insisting on its place in the shadow of the storm. Our earliest glimpses of Sif are fragmented, etched in runestones and whispered in the oldest verses of the poetic Edda. She is consistently identified as the wife of Thor, making her one of the foremost goddesses of the Aesir tribe. The name Sif itself is believed to be related to the Old Norse word for affinity or kin by marriage, hinting at her fundamental role as a connector, a binder of families and alliances within the divine pantheon. Yet her significance blooms from this marital title. Scholars like Snorri Sturluson in his 13th century prose Edda explicitly links her radiant hair to growing grain, solidifying her domain over fertility and the harvest. She is not merely Thor's consort. She is the earth to his sky, the nurturing ground that receives the life-giving rain of his storms. Imagine an ancient carving on a wooden portal. There stands Thor, hammer raised, but beside him, Sif is depicted with strands that flow into intricate patterns resembling sheaves of wheat, her hands perhaps holding a loaf of bread or a sickle, symbols of cultivated prosperity. This iconography speaks to a people whose survival was intimately tied to the land's yield, who saw the divine in every golden stalk. While grand public temples to Thor are noted in historical accounts, the rituals dedicated to Sif were likely more woven into the domestic and agricultural fabric of daily life. Her worship was an act of hope and gratitude performed in the field and at the hearth. Before the spring planting, a family might leave a small offering of the previous year's seed at the boundary stone of their farm, a silent plea to Sif for her blessing on the new crop. During harvest, the first and last sheaves, the harvest mother, were often ceremonially cut and brought into the longhouse with great care, believed to hold Sif's spirit and ensure fertility for the coming year. These sheaves would be fashioned into a ceremonial figure or placed in a position of honor, a tangible token of the goddess's presence. The atmosphere during these acts was one of solemn practicality, mixed with the rich smells of turned earth, ripe grain, and wood smoke. There were no thunderous invocations, but perhaps a quiet chant from the matriarch of the household, her hands, calloused and skilled, gently arranging the offering, a personal communion with the force that turned seed into sustenance. The most famous myth of Sif is not one of her own action, but of a profound violation and its magnificent resolution. It begins with mischief in the golden halls of Asgard. One morning, Sif awakens to a feeling of strange lightness, a cold breeze where there should be none. She reaches to braid her magnificent hair, the hair that was the envy of the gods and the symbol of the earth's golden abundance, and her hands touch only her scalp. It is gone, shorn completely, stolen in the night. The silence that follows is more devastating than any cry. In that moment, she is not a goddess, but a woman violated, her very identity stripped away. The shining halls of Asgard seem to dim, a palpable shadow of loss falling over her. Word spreads quickly, and soon the thunderous footsteps of her husband echo through the realm. Thor's rage is a tempest contained within muscle and bone. His knuckles are white around the shaft of Mjolnir, his eyes sparking with a lightning that promises vengeance. He knows, as all know, the culprit. There is only one being in all the 9 worlds with the audacity for such a cruel and pointless trick: Loki, the shapeshifter, the agent of chaos. Confronted by Thor, Loki does not deny it. His laughter is sharp, a sound like breaking ice. He saw the hair as a mere trinket, a challenge to his cunning. Under the threat of having his bones ground to dust by Mjolnir, Loki's smirk falters. To save his own skin, he swears an oath. He will journey to the realm of the dwarves, the master craftsmen of the cosmos, and procure for Sif a new head of hair, one that will surpass even the original in its brilliance. Thor, with Sif standing silent and regal beside him, accepts this oath. He allows Loki to go, but the promise is underscored by the unspoken threat. Failure means annihilation. Thus, Loki descends from the world of gods into the dark, smoky forges of Svartalfheim. The journey is treacherous, through caverns that echo with the distant ring of hammers and the glow of molten metal. Here, in the realm of the dwarves, beauty is not grown. It is forged, hammered into being from the raw elements of the earth and magic. Loki, the silver-tongued, must now bargain with beings who value craft over charm. The sons of Ivaldi, the dwarf craftsmen, accept Loki's challenge. They work their bellows until the fire burns with a heart of stars. They take not gold, but the very light of the sun and the moon, spinning it with strands of growing things and the dreams of prosperity. What they create is not a wig, but a living marvel. The hair for Sif is fashioned from finely spun gold, but gold that is alive, possessing the same power of growth as natural hair. When Loki returns to Asgard, the gods gather in suspense. Sif stands with a stillness that holds eons of patience. Loki presents his prize. As the new hair is placed upon her head, a miracle occurs. It bonds seamlessly with her being, and then it grows, cascading down her shoulders and back, shimmering with a light that is both metallic and organic. It is more beautiful than before, each strand a filament of captured sunshine, radiating a warmth that promises perpetual harvest. Sif's dignity is restored, not merely replaced, but elevated. Her quiet grace in the face of violation is now crowned with a gift born from cosmic craftsmanship and Thor's protective fury. But Loki's journey to the dwarves had greater consequences. Not content with just one prize, he goaded other dwarf brothers, Brokkr and Iri, into a wager, leading to the creation of Thor's mighty hammer Mjolnir, Odin's spear Gungnir, and Freya's golden boar. Thus, from an act of petty malice against Sif sprang some of the most powerful artifacts in the Norse cosmos. This myth is deeply symbolic. Sif's hair represents the cultivated, renewable wealth of the earth, the crops. Its theft is like a blight or a terrible winter that strips the land bare. Loki, as a force of chaos and fire, can destroy this delicate growth. Yet the resolution shows that through conflict, effort, and divine skill, the dwarves, a new, even more resilient form of prosperity can be forged. Sif, in her patient endurance, becomes the catalyst for the acquisition of tools that will defend the order of the gods themselves. Her fertility is directly linked to the security provided by Thor's new hammer. One cannot exist without the other. Beyond the legend of her hair, Sif's familial role is central. She is a stepmother to Thor's children, including the mighty Magni and Modi, and most notably to Ullr, the god of skiing, archery, and winter hunt. While myths are silent on the details of these relationships, Sif's characterization suggests a nurturing, stabilizing presence. Imagine the fierce, warlike Thor raising young sons destined for battle. Sif's influence would provide the balance of hearth, home, and the lessons of the peaceful earth. Ullr, whose mother is rarely mentioned, may have found in Sif a maternal figure who understood the rhythms of the forest and the quiet patience of the hunter. She represents the domestic sphere of Asgard, the order and warmth that allows the warriors to venture out. Her hall is one of plenty, where the bread is always fresh from the oven, and the air smells of herbs and honey. This is the side of divine life that the sagas often omit, but it is the essential foundation without which the epic battles would be meaningless. Sif also exists in a fascinating web of relationships with other goddesses. She is often mentioned alongside Freya and Frigg, sometimes in ways that suggest overlapping domains or shared status. Some scholars theorize that Sif may represent an older, perhaps even pre-Viking, earth goddess figure whose attributes were later distributed or echoed in other female divinities. Her golden hair finds a parallel in the golden tears of Freya and the golden distaff of Frigg. This interconnectedness highlights that the Norse pantheon was not a rigid hierarchy, but a complex ecosystem of powers. Sif's essence, earthly fertility, familial bonds, resilient beauty, is a fundamental strand in the weave of Norse cosmology. She is the soil from which the world tree Yggdrasil springs, the tangible, nourishing reality that underpins all the cosmic drama. In a mythos hurtling towards Ragnarok, the apocalyptic twilight of the gods, Sif's presence is a persistent note of hope, a reminder of what is worth saving, the simple, enduring cycle of growth and harvest. The cultural impact of Sif, while subtler than Thor or Odin, is enduring. In later Scandinavian folklore, the reverence for the harvest mother or the spirit of the grain persisted for centuries, a clear echo of Sif's domain. In the 19th century, during the Romantic nationalist movement, artists and writers rediscovered the Norse myths. Painters like J.C. Dahlman or Lawrence Frolick depicted Sif, often focusing on the dramatic moment of the haircutting or her restoration, portraying her as an ideal of Nordic beauty and tragic grace. Her image became intertwined with national identity and a connection to the ancestral land. In modern times, her resurgence is most visible in popular culture. She appears in Marvel comics and films, though these interpretations take great liberties, often portraying her as a warrior. While this adapts her for a new audience, it risks obscuring her unique, non-martial power. More authentic representations flourish in modern fantasy literature, video games, and neo-pagan practices, where she is honored as a goddess of the hearth, family, and the steadfast fertility of the earth. In contemporary neo-pagan traditions, such as heathenry, Sif has reclaimed her sacred role. Practitioners may honor her during the harvest festivals like Mabon or at planting time. Offerings of bread, honey, or the first fruits of the garden are made in her name. Rituals might involve braiding one's own hair or weaving stalks of grain into talismans, actively connecting personal life to her sustaining energy. She is invoked for matters of family harmony, agricultural success, and personal growth, not just physical, but the growth of character and dignity through trials. This modern worship completes a circle, bringing the goddess from the ancient longhouse back into homes and hearts, recognizing that her power, the power of resilient, quiet abundance, is as needed today as it ever was in the Viking Age. To conclude our journey with Sif, wife of Thor, is to understand that myth is not merely about the loudest thunderclap, but also about the silence that follows, fertile and full of potential. Sif embodies the profound truth that the fiercest protection is meaningless without something peaceful to protect. She is the golden field that gives purpose to the storm cloud, the secure hearth that welcomes the weary warrior, the dignity that remains unbroken even when shorn. Her legacy is the quiet, unstoppable force of life itself, ever-growing, ever-renewing. In a universe of gods and giants, of endings and beginnings, Sif represents the enduring middle, the continuous, nurturing present. So the next time you see a field of wheat turning gold under the sun, or feel the comfort of a warm hearth, remember the goddess whose hair is the harvest and whose strength is the deep, resilient roots of the world. Another legend fades, but the next awaits. Like this video, subscribe and continue the journey through myths.